Observe very carefully. In last class, we studied how to study the properties of a solution and what are the properties of solutions and what is the types of solutions. So totally, how many properties of solutions we studied? Mr. Akilan, have you watched the video? Totally, how many properties, Mr. Hari? Totally, we studied six properties of solutions, and types of solutions are five types. That is what? Solutions of solid in a solid, solutions of solid in a solid, solutions of solid in a liquid, solutions of liquid in a liquid, solutions of next, everybody, solutions of liquid in liquid. Next one, what? Solutions of gas in a liquid. Last one, solutions of gas in a liquid. And last one is what? Solutions of gas in a gas. Understand, everybody? Now, Neha, you also learn. Now, each one we should learn one example. Okay, examples alone you can learn because exam they will ask you most probably that only. Now, what is the most famous solutions? Anybody can tell? Majority of the solutions in our surroundings. What is that, everybody? Majority of the solutions is prepared by solid dissolved in liquid only. Solid is dissolved in liquid only. Okay. Now, first example, solid in a solid. What is the example, guys? Everybody, you have to tell me. Alloys. So we have been taken an example called as brass. So brass is made up of two metals. What is that? Mr. Arun Kailash? Yes. It is made up of what?
Zinc and copper, sir.
Yeah, copper and as well as zinc. So that is what it is. So it is the example of solid in a solid, types of solutions. Please remember that. Types of solutions. Totally how many types we have? Five types. Okay. So each one I'm saying you the example because exam they'll ask you an example only. So solid in a solid, alloys are the example. So brass is the example of alloy made up of copper and as well as what, guys? Zinc. Next, solid in a liquid. This is the most famous type of solutions. What is the example of solid in a liquid? Anybody? Yes, Mr. Kaushik. Sugar solutions. Very good. Sugar solutions. Next one. That's all. I told you which very important, which is we will use after the injuries. Anybody? Yes.
Tincture of iodine.
You should remember. Everyone, Kaushik, for you also. So tincture is a mixture of solid in a liquid. So it is made up of two substances. That is what? Iodine, understanding, which we used to call as solid. This is only called as solute. And iodine, and where it is dissolved, everybody can tell. Iodine is dissolved in where? Alcohol. Understand? Alcohol. So alcohol is called as liquid. So what is it is called as solvent. What is to call? Solvent, we can say. So this is most important. So many times exam they will ask you. Please remember that. Okay. Next, liquid in a liquid. Anybody? Fastly. Liquid in a liquid. What is that? Example,
Vinegar.
Guys. Vinegar. So most of our Indian kitchen also having nowadays this vinegar. So vinegar, vinegar. So vinegar is a mixture of two things. What is that? Vitakshri, Akilan. Vinegar is a mixture of acetic acid and water. Is it both are liquids or not? Respond, guys. Open your mouth and tell me. So both are liquids only. So vinegar is the example of liquid type of solutions. Next, gas and liquid type of solution. Anybody? Gas in a liquid. Omar, you know very well. What is that? Gas in a liquid. Soda water or all the cool drinks, or we can say soft drinks and all. So soft drinks contains what? You can take carbon dioxide gas. So CO2 gas in liquid. So that is what we can say gas in liquid. Now, last one is called as gas in a gas. I want example. Anybody can tell? Gas in a gas. See our surroundings, you'll be having that. What is that? Yes, that is what we
Air, sir.
called as air. So air is a mixture of gases. What is that gases, Mr. Johan, Akilan? Air is a mixture of
Nitrogen, oxygen,
so it is a mixture of
carbon.
nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, water vapor, and etc. etc. So now my question is, who is a more percentage? Neha in air. Who is a more percentage? Mr. Gokul. Who is a more percentage? 78% is nitrogen. So that is why nitrogen is called as what we used to call Hari. We used to call it as solvent, and the remaining all are called as solutes. Okay. So this is what we have to remember. So till here we studied in the last class. Is it yes or no? Yes, Mr. Johan.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So any doubt, anybody can ask me till here. Is it okay with Akshri clear? Where is Reddy, Omar? I don't know. So this is what we studied in the last class. So these 5 types of solutions and their examples is very, very important. So please kindly remember, and if you have doubt, you just ask me. Mainly this iodine. So iodine is a mixture of what? Everybody open your mouth. Iodine is a mixture of tincture. Tincture is a mixture of iodine and as well as alcohol. So iodine is a solid solute and alcohol is the liquid solute. So that is why it is an example of solid liquid solution. So most popular solutions in our surroundings is solid in a liquid solution only. Is it okay, Akilan? Are you clear? Now,
Yes, sir.
now, today's class, we are going to study the next type of mixtures, which we used to call as, what is the next type of mixtures? Everyone, suspensions. What we used to call? Suspensions. Please write it. SUSPEN. SIONS. Suspensions. Right. So is it a homogeneous or heterogeneous? First of all, I want the answer. As we know, mixtures are 2 types. Mixtures are 2 types. What is the mixtures are 2 types? One is homogeneous. Another one is what? Another one?
Heterogeneous.
Heterogeneous. Only Haris is there. No other knows. What is the example of homogeneous? We know that. We made solutions are true solutions. What is the example of heterogeneous? Suspensions,
Suspension.
and we will study. Next one is what? Colloids. Okay. So this both we used to call as heterogeneous mixtures. Now, today's class we'll try to finish the properties of second type of mixtures. That is what? Heterogeneous or homogeneous? Heterogeneous mixtures. That is what we used to call as suspensions. Okay, everybody. So please write it. Okay. So we all studied that which are soluble in water or any other kind of liquid. They will form what, guys? Just now we studied. So which anything will soluble in water. What we used to call? Which is soluble in water. What it will form? Mitakshri, Harish called to Reddy. And as well as one more person. Who is that person? Yeah, Omar. Mr. Kaushik, if any substance will soluble in water, what it will forms? Mitakshri, if any substance soluble in water, what it will forms? What we studied yesterday, that is what it is, but nobody is answering. If anything is dissolved completely, what will form, Mr. Akilan? Ready? Hari? Yes, it will form true solution. Same way, here, if any kind of substances which are insoluble in water, they will form suspensions. All of you should remember these 2 points. If anything is soluble in water, which we used to call as what? Everybody? Soluble in water is called as solution.
True solution.
Insoluble, yeah, true solution or solution. If it is insoluble in water or any other liquid, we used to call it as what? Everybody? Suspensions. Understand? Everyone, please respond, Amma. All of you. That is what you have to remember it. Write it. Right. The substances which are soluble in water, which are the suspensions which are, the substances which are soluble, all of you write it, soluble in water or any liquid will form what, guys? Respond please. Will form solutions. Will form solutions. Will not soluble, what we used to call? If you are not speaking, I am not all interested, I am saying everybody's. If they are not soluble, then what it will forms? They'll form substances, right? Those substances which are insoluble in water, those substances which are insoluble in water form, what they'll form, guys? The second type of mixtures, what is that? Called as suspensions. So please all of you remember that. So that is what. So is it soluble substance will form suspensions or insoluble substances? Mr. Arun Kailash will answer or not? Mr. Gokul, everybody? So always insoluble substances will form the suspensions. Now we'll study what is the definition of these suspensions and what is the examples of these suspensions. Now if we'll take here, suspension is a homogeneous or heterogeneous mixture? I want it is Neha, heterogeneous mixture. Remember, solutions only homogeneous mixture and the next two are heterogeneous mixture only. So please all of you learn the definition of, understand these suspensions very clearly. So as we know, which are insoluble or undissolved in water. Okay, so that is what examples we can say. So right, a suspension is a heterogeneous mixture. A suspension is a heterogeneous mixture in which the small particles of a solid, in which the small particles of a solid are spread throughout a liquid. Particles of a solid spread throughout the liquid. It will spread, but is it dissolve or not? That is what my question. Who will answer? Is it will dissolve or not? Johan, Harini, is it will dissolve or not? That is what my question. They will spread, but is it dissolving?
No, sir.
No,
sir.
that is what? Throughout the liquid without dissolving in it. Throughout the liquid without dissolving in it. Is it okay, everyone? So this is the perfect definition. Now keep in mind, in exam definitions you should not change according to your convenience. Content you can explain, but definition perfectly how to write according to what I have given. Then only people will score full mark in the given definition. So this is what we used to call as suspension. Is there any doubt, anybody? Yes, please respond, all of you. So now, what is the common examples of suspensions? I want it. Anybody can tell. So, common examples of suspensions. Yes, Mr. Anyone, please? Mitakshri. What you people know and what is a common example? Don't be silent, Mr. Kaushik and all. I already told you. So I want common examples of these suspensions. Let me see who will answer. One is in our home only, or else you can see in our classroom also. Now, do all people know chalk piece? Yes, please. Do all people know chalk piece? Now, if you crush the chalk piece and they will pour, if you just drop it in water, is it they will dissolve in water or they will float on the water completely?
Float on the water.
They will float on the water. So is it a mixture, solution, or it is a suspension?
Suspension.
Suspension. So the first example in our mind, all of you should remember, whenever if will take a this suspensions, first example is chalk water mixture. What is the first one? Chalk water mixture. So that is the first example of heterogeneous mixture called as suspensions. Next, muddy water. What is the next one, guys? Muddy water. Next one is antacid. I told you already, antacid. Very famous antacid. What is antacid? Mitakshri, Gokul Kanna, Gokul Krishna. What is that antacid? Milk of magnesia. What is that? Milk of magnesia. Understand? That is why when we are taking this one, we have to shake before well. Shake before use, they used to mention. That is what? Milk of magnesia. Next, sand particles suspended in water. Sand particles suspended in water. Next, do all people know rice flour, wheat flour, and etc. etc.? Yes, please respond, everybody. Yes. Yeah. Now, if you drop it in the water, is it they will mix with the water or they will float on the water? Yes, please. Like a chalk piece. Mix or they will float. They float on the water. That is what we can say. All this rice flour, wheat flour, etc., called as flour. So flour in water. So that is what flour in water. So this is also example of suspension only. Is it okay, everyone? Yes, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, tell me, chalk water mixture. Who is the suspension of particles in water? Who is the suspension? I want it. Chalk water. Who is the suspension particles? Yes, please.
Sir.
Who is the suspension particles? Suspension of fine particles in water. Okay. So suspension of fine chalk particles. Chalk particles in where? In water. Next.
Water.
Muddy water. Who is muddy water suspension? Yes, please. Muddy water. Muddy water. Who is a suspension? Suspension of soil. Muddy means soil only, correct. Suspension of soil particles in water. That is what you have to answer. You have to tell me suspension of soil particles in water. Purima, everybody, Akilan. Yes, Gokul, everything. Next, tell me same way. Milk of magnesia. Who is the suspension? Milk of magnesia. You people don't know. Milk of magnesia. Who is the suspension? I already told you it is a mixture of two things. What is that? It is a mixture of two things. You people don't know. That is what? Magnesium hydroxide. Understanding? Mix it with the water. Magnesium hydroxide. Magnesium hydroxide. That is what? MgOH twice. How to read? Everybody read this one. How to read this one? Magnesium hydroxide, understanding, in water. So this is what it is happening. So this is only called as magnesium, understanding. MgOH twice, we can say. MgOH twice is the formula. So it is the suspension. Suspension is magnesium hydroxide. Is that yeah? Everyone, please respond. So suspension of magnesium hydroxide in water. So if you notice very carefully, the solid particles and water remain separate in a suspension and the particles do not dissolve in water. Do you understand, everybody? So shall we see the boundaries or not? All of you answer. Shall we see the boundaries when the particles are not dissolved? Yes or no? Nobody will answer.
Yes, sir.
So that is what you have to remember. Always the particles are remains understanding separated, and we can see the boundaries between them. They won't dissolve in water. Write it. Solid particles and water remain separate in a suspension. Solid particles will dissolve or not? That is my first question. Let me see who will answer. Is it will dissolve? Neha, Akilan, Arun Kailash.
No,
I
sir.
already told you so many times. That is what. Okay. So solid particles won't dissolve in water, in suspension, not in solution. Write it. Solid particles and water remain separate in a suspension. Solid particles and water remain separated in suspension. Remain separated in suspensions. The particles do not dissolve in water. The particles do not dissolve in water. Is it okay, everyone? Yes, please. Nobody. Yes. Now, this is what is called as suspensions. I'm giving 1 minute time. Whatever it is, you can verify from the first. Whatever it is missing, you can note it down. I hope everybody learned what is suspension and what is the example of suspension and who is a suspension in water. That is also you can able to identify. Is it yes, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So any doubt, anybody can ask me or else complete it fastly. Otherwise, we'll proceed further. Once it is finished, let me know. So this is what it is, examples and as well as how the properties. So are you all completed? Take your time and write, but don't be in a hurry. Maintain notes. I will check it definitely. If no notes, very, very serious. Are you clear? Yes, please.
Completed.
Okay. So now, to study the properties of solutions, we have taken one example and we studied. Anybody can tell that example? To study the properties of solution, we have taken one example and we studied. And can you tell me what is that? Anybody?
Sugar solution.
The solution.
Very good, Amma. So same way, now we are going to study the properties of a suspension. So for that, we will take chalk powder with water. Is it okay, everyone? So now, if you are having chalk in our home, please crush it and take the chalk powder and 1 glass of water and transparent glass and keep it in front of you just 2 minutes so that you will understand the properties very clearly. Can you all people will do it if you are having? Okay. Or else if you are having flour also you can take. Okay, right. To study the properties of a suspension, to study the properties of a suspension. So what is the example I have taken? Everyone, example, with the example I'm going to prove it. So what is the example, everybody? Yes, please. Chalk powder, chalk water mixture. Is it okay, everyone? Yes.
Yes, sir.
So chalk powder, if you're having, you can take. Now, I have taken a chalk powder and I added to water, and immediately what I should do? I want to shake it. So take 1 glass of water or in a beaker. So I am taking it. Now I have taken what inside? I have taken the water. Do you understand, everybody? Now I have taken a chalk piece powder. I will observe with the help of here you can see. I have been taken the chalk piece powder and I have dropped at the top of the container. Now, I will be keep on shaking. Now, is it will dissolve in water or it will not will dissolve in water? Yes, please. You shake it. So this is what we can say chalk powder, and this is what I can say water. So once it will mix together, please kindly shake it. If you are having in your hand, you can shake it. Now you can see all of you. If you will shake chalk powder with water in a beaker, you people will find that water will turns into milky suspension. Is it right or wrong? Shake it, everybody. It will turns into milky. Is it right or wrong? Milky suspension. Is it yes or no? It won't dissolve in water, but it will mix with the water so that it will become little milky substance. Is it yes or no, guys? Respond.
Yes, sir.
Yes, so it will turns into milky. That is what. So we can see the small particles of chalk which is suspended throughout the water without dissolving in it. So once if we'll see that milky suspension is forming, we can notice it. So the small particles are floating. That is what chalk powder. So everywhere inside the water, we can see that the particles are floating without dissolving in it. So this is only what is that particles we used to call as? What is the particles? Chalk particles. What is that particles? Chalk particles. So is it the dissolved in water or not? Is it the dissolved in water or not? Yes, please. All of you. Is the dissolved in water or not? That is what my question. All of you?
No.
No, they will never dissolve. Now, if you leave it for undisturbed, Mitakshri, suppose you have been shaken this very well, and if I left it for undisturbed, then what will happen? Anybody can tell me? Undisturbing.
Chalk particles will settle down, sir.
Very good. Who said this one? Mitakshri only. Very good. So, if you left it for undisturbing, then all the chalk particles, what will happen? They will be slowly settle down. And you can see it will take some time to settle as they are very less weight. Do you understand, all of you? So, they are floating inside the water when we shake it because they will never dissolve in water, and as well as you can notice it, they will form immediately a cloudy like normal transparent water. With the help of these small particles, it will turns into cloudy or milky. Now once if we left it for undisturbed, you can see again water will become pure, but all the chalk powder will be settled at what part? Will be settled at? Everybody. Settled at what particle?
Down.
Settled at down. That is what you have to remember. So that is also an important property. Now, if you see that chalk and water suspension, is it stable or unstable? See, when they are floating, it is becoming milky. So if you left it for undisturbed, all the particles are settled down. So is it stable or unstable? That is what my question. Mr. Gokul Krishna, Kaushik, Harini, Johan, respond. Is it a stable or unstable? That is what my question. Anybody? Yes? Stable means, I listen, observe very carefully. What do you mean by stable? Means in the sense of, suppose sugar dissolve in water. Is it possible to settle down? If you keep 10 days also, sugar will never come back. Is it yes or no, Mitakshri? Yes, please.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So particles which are completely mixed each other, you can notice it, they are called as stable in nature. These things will float when we shake. If we leave it for undisturbed, all the particles will settle at where? All the particles will settle at
Down.
down. So they are not floating continuously. Yes or no, Mr. Gokul? So that is why
Yes, sir.
these settle it down. So, and they are saying it is a what? It is a what? suspension is unstable. Chalk and water suspension is unstable. Is what? Unstable. Is it okay, everyone? No doubt? Any doubt? Ask me. Yes, please, guys. Yes, please. Completed. This is the property of
Yes.
one of the properties. So, is it there stable or unstable? Suspensions. Is it there stable or unstable?
Unstable.
Now, this same beaker I will pour in the filter paper. Let me say, is it any residue will be remaining or not? I want it. Know that. So I have kept a filter paper. Now you tell me, is it any residue or not? Mitakshri, Hari? Yes, please. If I'll pour this beaker, if I'll pour this water, everything which contains a solid, here you can notice it. So now tell me what I should do. If I'll pour it, so what it will passes and what will be stuck inside here? Yes, please.
Sir, chalk will stuck on the filter paper, sir.
Chalk will stuck on here. So that is only we used to called as, we have a special name. What is that called as? Residue.
Residue.
Pure solution will go down. Is it okay, Amma? Yes, everyone? No response. Yes?
Yes, sir.
We can say, if you'll pass the suspension through the filter paper, is they will left the residue or not? That is what my question. Anybody? Anybody? If I will pass through filter paper, if a solution is passed through filter paper, is they will left some residue or not? That is what my question.
Okay.
Yes, please. Of course, please try to speak. Is they will left residue or not? Yes, that is what I am saying. Always you remember, suspensions will pass through the filter paper. So I have poured now chalk powder through the filter paper. So chalk will stuck on the filter paper. Only pure water will come down. So that is what we can say. This is what we used to call it as filtrate. What we used to call everybody? Yes, please. What is that called as? Filtrate. And the
Filtrate.
unwanted particles, what we used to call? Unwanted particles we used to call it as
Residue.
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 This is what about how to study the properties of suspensions with the help of an experiment. So what is the suspension we have taken here, everyone? What is the suspension? Chalk powder suspension. And okay, so hope everybody understand. If anybody is having doubt, you please kindly ask me. Yes or no, guys? Yes? All of you? And last property. Now, if I will pass a beam of light through this suspension, then what will happen? That is what I want. Anybody?
It will block the light, sir.
Is it will block the light or reflect the light so that it will make us to see the path of the light? That is what my want. Yes or no? It will make us to see the path of the light. Understand? Mr. Harish, observe very carefully. Mitakshri, when it will make us to scatter the light or make us to see the light in this first diagram or second diagram? That is what I want. When the suspension will make us to see the scattering light or path of a light. Yes, please. Yes, everybody. In the first diagram or second diagram, Mr. Hari?
The second one.
Second one, see Hari. Second one, it is settled down so that only water is only available at top. So if you'll scatter the torch, so that what will happen, Hari? Yes, Mister. So what will happen? The light will go down. That's all. It is nothing is there current because particles are settled down. Do you understand, Mr. Harish? What I'm saying? Yes.
Yes, sir.
All of you. So when it will be, please respond. So when the light will be make us to scatter by the suspensions, when they are floating in the water. Do you understand, everyone? Yes, please. When they are floating in the water. Is it understand, Amma? Everybody? Yes?
Sir.
That is what. Once the particles will settle down, what will happen? Once the particles will settle down, then it won't be scatter the light. Understand, ready? Understand, Hari? Yes, please. So that is what you have to remember it. So, in which case it will scatter the light? Only when the particles are just mixed. When you shake and when the particles are floating without dissolving, then only it will scatter the light. After that, it won't be scatter the light. Okay. So this is what it is. Three things. So I am mixing the chalk powder. You can see here. I am mixing the chalk powder now, and here I shaked it very well with the help of glass rod. Neha, are you understanding, Neha? So that it will turns into what color? It will turns into milky. Have you noticed it? Yes, nobody will say that. So it will turns into milky or not? Yes, allow you?
sir.
Yes. Now, in this situation, if I'll keep the light, then what will happen? It will scatter the path of the light, make us to visible. Understand, everybody? We can see the path of the light. We can see path of light, but if you leave it for undisturbed, have you noticed it? All the chalk powder will settle down. Yes or no? Yes, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And up only pure water is there. Now it won't scatter the light. You understand, everyone? It won't scatter the light at now, only when all the particles are floating only. So we can say suspensions also will scatter the light or not? Suspensions also will scatter the light. It scatters the beam